Adventure the Third of Adventures of a Brownie. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Ted Nugent. Adventures of a Brownie by Miss Muller. Adventure the Third. Brownie in the Farmyard. Which was a place where he did not often go, for he preferred being warm and snug in the house. But when he felt himself ill-used, he would wander anywhere in order to play tricks upon those whom he thought had done him harm. For being only a brownie and not a man, he did not understand that the best way to revenge yourself upon your enemies is either to let them alone or to pay them back good for evil. It disappoints them so much and makes them so exceedingly ashamed of themselves. One day, Brownie overheard the gardener advising the cook to put sour milk into his bowl at night instead of sweet. He'd never find out the difference, no more than the pigs do. Indeed, it's my belief that the pig or dog or something empties the bowl and not the brownie at all. It's just clean waste, that's what I say. Then you'd better hold your tongue and mind your own business, returned the cook, who was a sharp temper, and would not stand being meddled with. She began to abuse the gardener soundly, but his wife, who was standing by, took his part, as she always did when any third party scolded him. So they all squabbled together till Brownie hid under his collar, put his little hands over his little ears. Dear me, what a noise these mortals do make when they quarrel! They quite deafen me. I must teach them better manners. But when the cook slammed the door to, and left Gardner and his wife alone, they too began to dispute between themselves. You make such a fuss over your nasty pigs, and get all the scraps for them, said the wife. It's of much more importance that I should have everything cooked and spare for my chickens. Never were such fine chickens as my last brood. I thought they were ducklings. How you catch me up, you rude old man! They are ducklings, and beauties too, even though they have never seen water. Where's the pond you promised to make for me, I wonder? Rubbish, woman! If my cows do without a pond, your ducklings may. And why will you be so silly as to rear ducklings at all? Fine fat chickens are a deal better. You'll find out your mistake some day. And so will you, when that old orangery runs dry. You'll wish you had taken my advice and fattened and sold her. Ordinary cows won't sell for fattening, and women's advice is never worth twopence. Yours isn't worth even a halfpenny. What are you laughing at? I wasn't laughing, said the wife angrily, and in truth it was not she, but little Brownie, running under the barrow, which the gardener was wheeling along, and very much amused that people would be so silly as to squabble about nothing. It was still early morning, for whatever this old couple's faults might be, laziness was not one of them. The wife rose with the dawn to feed her poultry and collect her eggs. The husband also got through as much work by breakfast time as many an idle man does by noon. But Brownie had been beforehand with them this day. When all the fowls came running to be fed, the big Brahma hen who had hatched the duckling was seen wandering forlornly about and clucking mournfully for her young brood. She could not find them anywhere. Had she been able to speak, she might have told how a large white Aylesbury duck had waddled into the farmyard and waddled out again, coaxing them after her, no doubt in search of a pond.
but missing they were most certainly. "Cluck, cluck, cluck!" moaned the miserable hen mother, and "Oh, my ducklings, my ducklings!" cried the gardener's wife. "Who can have carried off my beautiful ducklings?" "Rats, maybe," said the gardener cruelly, as he walked away, and as he went he heard the squeak of a rat below his wheelbarrow, but he could not catch it, any more than his wife could catch the Aylesbury duck. Of course not. Both were the Brownie. Just at this moment the 6 little people came running into the farmyard. When they had been particularly good, they were sometimes allowed to go with the gardener a-milking, each carrying his or her own mug for a drink of milk warm from the cow. They scampered after him, a noisy tribe, begging to be taken down to the field, and holding out their 6 mugs entreatingly. "What, 6 cupfuls of milk, when I haven't got a drop to spare, and cook is always wanting more? Ridiculous nonsense! Get along with you! You may come to the field, I can't hinder that, but you will get no milk this day. Take your mugs back again to the kitchen." The poor little fox made the best of a bad business, and obeyed, then followed Gardener down to the field rather dolefully. But it was such a beautiful morning that they soon recovered their spirits. The grass shone with dew like a sheet of diamonds, the clovers smelled so sweet, and the 2 skylarks were singing at one another high up in the sky. Several rabbits darted past to their great amusement, especially one very large rabbit, brown, not grey, which dodged them in and out, and once nearly threw Gardener down, pail and all, by running across his feet, which set them all laughing till they came where Dolly the cow lay chewing the cud under a large oak tree. It was great fun to stir her up, as usual, and lie down, one after the other, in the place where she had lain all night long, making the grass flat and warm and perfumy with her sweet breath. She let them do it, and then stood meekly by, for Dolly was the gentlest cow in the world. But this morning something strange seemed to possess her. She altogether refused to be milked, kicked, plunged, tossed over the pail, which was luckily empty. "Bless the cow! What's wrong with her? It's surely you children's fault. Stand off, the whole lot of you. So, Dolly, good Dolly!" But Dolly was anything but good. She stood switching her tail, and looking as savage as so mild an animal possibly could look. "It's all your doing, you naughty children! You've been playing her some trick, I know!" cried the gardener in great wrath. They assured him they had done nothing, and indeed they looked as quiet as mice and as innocent as lambs. At length the biggest boy pointed out a large wasp which had settled in Dolly's ear. "That accounts for everything," said the gardener. But it did not mean everything, for when he tried to drive it away, it kept coming back, and buzzing round his own head and the cow's, with a voice that the children thought was less like the buzz of a wasp than the sound of a person laughing. At length it frightened Dolly to such an extent that with one wide bound she darted right away and galloped off to the further end of the field. "I'll get a rope and tie her legs together," cried the gardener fiercely. "She shall repent giving me all this trouble, that she shall." "Ha, ha, ha!" laughed somebody. The guy